Welcome back to another episode of the Boys on the Bench podcast. We are your host. I am DJ Riley, and alongside me, as always, is my brother Dalton Riley and lifelong friend Nathan Eastwood. This is episode 9 for us. We are getting so close to double digits. And what we're going to start doing in these next couple of episodes is breaking down position groups, doing our booms and busts of the major position groups, looking at fantasy. So what we're going to do today are our top 5 quarterbacks, which are our booms, and then our bottom 5 quarterbacks, which are our projected busts for this year. And then we also have some honorable mentions and dishonorable mentions that we're going to bring up. So that's going to be the episode.
All right, fellas. So let's not waste any more time. So let's get going with these booms and our busts. So guys, we're going to start with the number 5. Okay. So based on our ADP from what we've gotten for redraft leagues, at number 5, we currently have Geno Smith. Guys, Geno Smith, I feel like a lot of people may be surprised by this, but why? He was the number 5 last year. And I think he has the capabilities to do it again because this team only got stronger. I mean, look at what the Seahawks did in the past draft, going and getting Jackson Smith and Jigba. But not only that, but look what they did on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's smart for a quarterback like Geno Smith. Just you want a good quarterback to have the ball as many times as possible. And I think investing on the defensive side of the ball is just as important as investing on the offensive side of the ball. So when I saw them draft those defensive players, I was like, man, if I was Geno, I'd be like, dude, you got me Jackson Smith and Jigba. You got me Zach Charbonnet. And then you get me defensive guys. I was like, they're going to be a solid group. I think the ball will get turned over quite a lot with the Seahawks. I think they'll be a top defense in the league. And I think the ball will end up in Geno's hands a lot more frequent than not. Also, let's not forget that he was the league leader in quarterback rating and quarterback completion percentage. So this was by far his most yardage he's had in his entire 9-10 years in the league. He had over 4,200 yards throwing and then 366 yards rushing. Like, guys, he's a rushing quarterback too on top of that. So, guys, I'm on the up and up with this guy. I think where he sits at number 5 is perfect. I think that's probably – it may or may not be his ceiling, but I definitely think his floor is not further below him. I think it's right there. So I think he's going to be a very solid pick for fantasy redrafts, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna cover much here on Geno because Dalton pretty much covered everything there is to say. I mean, this is a guy who was top 5 last year, like Dalton said, and he also led the league in percentage and completion last year. So, like Dalton said, he has the potential of even jumping up to probably being the 4th best quarterback in fantasy with the addition of Jackson Smith and Jigba. So, sitting here, a late round, 3rd, 4th round draft pick, solid pickup in Geno Smith because he's got the weapons there. He's got DK, Tyler Lockett, Zach Charbonnet, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. So that offense only got better. So, yeah, it's a good pick.
Yeah, and also I wouldn't discredit him either, right? Like a lot of people will say, well, let's look at his past playing history, right? What if this was just an outlier year? Well, let's also be aware of where he was at in those past years. I mean, he was with the Jets between 2013 and 2016. He was with the Giants in 2017. And then he was with the Chargers in 18. So a lot of these teams at the time, he was just a backup for the Chargers, I believe. But at the time, these weren't incredible, teams that were just lighting the league on fire. Right. So he was on some mediocre, if that teams, and now he's on a team that's just ready to make a playoff run and be Super Bowl contenders. And so that's why I think he's at the right place at the right time.
Having him here at 5 is, I think, a solid spot for him. He finished, again, like we're all saying, as the 5th overall quarterback in fantasy leagues, and they've only improved. I can't really add anything to y'all. I can only echo it. And I just expect him to get better rather than worse. And if anything, he stays the same, you have the 5th best quarterback. That is a solid spot to be at. And I don't think anyone else necessarily made the moves to jump up. I mean, I know maybe a little biased, but Aaron Rodgers is kind of one of those guys that maybe come to a little bit of my mind who improved in a sense, and maybe even a Justin Herbert who kind of improved a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. But I would say I still have more confidence in Geno Smith here than the previous two guys mentioned. So anyways, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the number 4 for us. And our fourth boom is Joe Burrow. So the Cincinnati quarterback, he has come into this league. He has completely transitioned that Bengals team and from a losing organization to a winning organization. And it's been fun to see. We saw Zach Taylor, the head coach, kind of on the hot seat whenever they took Joe Burrow, and now he's kind of deemed as like one of the smarter coaches in the NFL to this date. So, and I mean, that just comes with good quarterback play, and that's what you need is good quarterback play. He has good weapons around him: Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They just got Irv Smith from the Vikings, so they're adding more pieces around Joe Burrow. I think that still the big concern is the line room, the O-line room for them. But you just saw them add a tackle. So again, they are building with that offense. Joe Burrow, I think, is going to continue to have a great season, continue to have a great career with Cincinnati.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Joe Burrow, like we said, I think that they've done nothing but, help this quarterback out. I feel like this is a complete retrospect of what we saw with Rodgers and the Packers. I just feel like when you have a team like Cincinnati that wants to come in and help their quarterback out, especially so young, I mean, that's why we see this guy making runs to the Super Bowl year after year already. So also, I thought one thing that I believe that Joe Burrow is where he's at too is because the team believes in him. I mean, who was it? T. Higgins said that he sees that him and Chase, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have all sat there and talked and discussed that they're like, we want to be here long term. The fact that they believe in Joe Burrow like that just tells me like, man, this dude's going to be fun to watch for.
Plus, Headband Joey. Have y'all seen Headband Joey? Joey B? Man, he's looking like he's about to come in and tear up the league just wearing a headband. So I don't know. I got a little pump seeing that. And I know he's getting a lot of hype around it, but it's just, I don't know. He's ready to go to business. Last year too, he also finished as QB4 in fantasy. So we're not following the trend of 5-4-3-2-1 as last year. So, but he did it as quarterback 4 for us last year.
Now, if we ranked quarterbacks on clutch or ice in the veins, Woo. I think Joey B would be number 1.
That's a bold take.
I mean, this dude is clutch. It's
that's a hot take. Look, Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, and I'm not going to sit here and argue with our ADP by any means. In my opinion, I think Joe Burrow is a top 3 quarterback in fantasy football and a top 3 quarterback just in football. I have him higher than Josh Allen just because big games. I feel like Joe Burrow is a better quarterback in bigger games than Josh Allen. He just looks like he's a seasoned vet. When you watch him on TV, when you watch him during his interviews, it just looks like he's been there for 15 years. Acts like he's been there for 15 years. And like you said, he's got a solid quarterback or wide receiving room. He's got ice in his veins. He's not scared of nothing. He goes out there, slings the rock, throws an interception. Who cares? He comes back out, 85-yard drive, passing touchdown, goes 6 for 6. Stuff like that. And yeah, like you said, DJ, you bring up mentioning the O-line issues. They had one of the worst offensive line in all of football and went to the Super Bowl. So what does that say about Joe Burrow? God dang it, I can't say his last name. Joe Burrow. But no, I can't sit here and argue with ADP. We have him. ADP has him at 4. He could be 4 or 3. Doesn't really matter. It's a great pick just because he's got great wide receivers, great connection.
Pass happy offense too.
It's a solid pick. Yeah, very pass happy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but with all that being said, with Joe Burrow, we're going to move into number 3 on our ADP list, and that is Josh Allen. Josh Allen is good. Josh Allen can throw the ball very well. He is going to get you a lot of points. Back to what I said a few minutes ago, though, big games scare me. He's either going to do really, really good or he's going to do really, really bad. And we see that in the playoffs. Well, Nathan, you don't need him in the playoffs. Yeah, you don't, but who's to say week 12 you're playing Kansas City in Kansas City? You know what I mean? So, but he's going to get a lot of points. That's another pass-happy offense. love to throw the football. They just added Dalton Kincaid, so great passing and catching tight end out of Utah. So they're looking to add another weapon for Josh Allen. So expect him to throw the ball probably almost 65% of the plays in every game. So it's a great pick. Going to get a lot of points and a lot of yards, and he's going to get you.
Yeah, and for me, I had Josh Allen ranked above Joe Burrow in this. I think that for Josh Allen, he just not only does he have the passing game, and he is arguably maybe an equal passer to Joe Burrow, but he also has a little bit of the run game. I know that Josh Allen came out this offseason and said that he's hyper aware of the longevity of his career if he continues to rush the amount that he's been rushing or using his legs. So he expects that to kind of come down a little bit, but that's still going to
be. Running's not the issue. Just don't try to truck a freaking 250-pound middle linebacker.
I would say twice his size because he's a big old boy too. But no, I mean, I get it as a quarterback. Though,
yeah, he is. But like him trucking Ray Lewis. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, the concern that I have with Josh Allen, but I still would rank him high just because of the volume that he passes at and how high he's ranked in fantasy in previous seasons. Like I said, last year he ranked as the number 2 quarterback in all of fantasy. But my biggest concern with Josh Allen and having him as a fantasy owner is his turnovers. Last year he had 14 interceptions, which I think is the most out of our top 5 that we have here. But then he also fumbles the ball a lot too, because like what you're saying, Nathan, he doesn't take the easy way out when he's on his legs. So, yeah. So what is that?
He had 5,
close to 20, 19 turnovers. So they're up there. That's a lot of negative points going against you. So I know that those are kind of the things that are looked at him in the clutch, and I mean, rightfully so, but I don't doubt the Bills offense ever. I look at them and I'm just like, if their opponents are going to go out there and they're going to score 35 points, expect the Bills to at least score 28 to 31. That's how much they're going to score. Josh Allen is going to be responsible for 2, maybe 3 of those touchdowns. So he's going to get his points. I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that. Like,
yeah,
he's going to be consistent in getting his points, but it's how many turnovers is he going to convert game in and game out?
Well, Dalton mentioned 20 turnovers, right? That's like what, 1.2 turnovers a game, maybe?
Yeah, I think he had 19, but yeah, same. Yeah, I mean, give or take. The turnovers, I mean, it is worrisome, but like from a fantasy perspective, I think one thing that, a lot of people draft on, including myself, I definitely, too, like DJ said, I had Josh Allen much higher than Joe Burrow. Simply because of the running ability. I know it's not really, great to hear when, Sean McDermott comes out and he admits that, Josh Allen's been taking way too many hits and we kind of need to back off the physicality of his playing style. But we still understand that Josh Allen knows how to play football. We know how he knows how to get out of the pocket and how to make plays, regardless if he does take a step back this next year running the football. I think that the carries will still be there. And if they do take a slight step back, I still think his carries will be still much higher than a non-mobile quarterback. So I still think that is still there for a fantasy perspective. So that's why I'm still taking him high. But I'm not worried about it. I know his fumbles are there. I know the turnovers are there. But I'm still going to lean more to the upside that's there. I think that it still weighs more heavy to me than the turnovers. So another player that we have on our list now for number 2, another player that I believe that we all had pretty high, that I think everyone has pretty high, is Patrick Mahomes himself, the reigning Super Bowl champ. So there are still some concerns here too, even ranked at number 2 on our ADP. One that comes to my mind is weapons, but that's one thing that we've realized, with the departure of Tyreek Hill, they didn't have him last year and Patrick Mahomes was still highly efficient. Now he lost.
No, Marquez MVS is still there. It's right? Juju. MVS. Juju went to the Patriots.
Lazard. Yeah, that's right. Lost Juju, right? So, they still have some, talent there, but I just don't think that the wide receiver crew I just don't see that crew being even in the top 20 wide receiving crew there. They still have Travis Kelce, but outside of Travis Kelce, I don't see much there. But I'm not worried for some reason. Like, I have this weird internal instinct with Patrick Mahomes. I'm so confident because I know him and Andy Reid are still going to go out there and they're going to produce fantasy wise, for teams. So I'm not worried. I think you still go on that limb. You take Patrick Mahomes because he's still going to bomb at 80 yards and he's still going to make things happen with his feet. There's a little magic going on there in Kansas City. So
and you're not worried because it's Patrick Mahomes. Even when he was at Texas Tech, he didn't have the best wide receivers in the country. This man still, and you can't say like, oh yeah, because Texas Tech, yeah, they did throw the ball 90 out of their 92 plays that they ran, but he was very efficient there throwing the football, and he's very efficient in the NFL throwing the football. He doesn't need great wide receivers around him because he's a really, really good quarterback, and expect him to have a very good career and win a lot of Super Bowls. But we have him here. We have him here at 2. It's because I like who we have at 1 a little bit better. But Patrick Mahomes is going to get you a lot of points. Everybody knows that. We don't have to cover Patrick Mahomes. Everybody knows you're going to draft Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean?
And if we're worried about these mediocre wide receivers, how do we not know that Mahomes can make a mediocre receiver a great receiver? Look at that
with Juju. Juju was a mediocre wide receiver.
But look at Rashid Rice, who's coming in. This dude is not a small guy.
He's supposed to be a pretty good wide receiver.
Right. A lot of people have their differences, and him coming out of, I believe, SMU, and his footage is not great. But you don't have to have great footage to be great in the NFL. Like, the thing is they're going to – I think Andy Reid is going to plug and play him and use him to his strengths, and I think that Rashid Rice could be great. But anyways, for Patrick Mahomes, I think he's fine. I think we're okay.
Well, you mentioned, he has one of the greatest offensive-minded coaches probably ever. I'd say the only person who's probably better than Andy Reid offensively, and DJ, you might agree with me here, is Bruce Arians. I think Bruce Arians is probably the only person who's a better offensive-minded coach than Andy Reid, but that helps Patrick Mahomes too. And not that he needs help because he's a great quarterback, but that it helps.
Yeah, no, and I had Patrick Mahomes as the number 1 quarterback, and I think it's because I see the way that elite quarterback play gets you. And I say that with Aaron Rodgers in mind. Aaron Rodgers I don't want to say never, because he did have a really good wide receiving core, but we've seen stretches where Rodgers didn't have the best wide receiving core and he makes something out of nothing. And I think that Patrick Mahomes does that, but on a different level. He does it at a so much higher rate than Aaron Rodgers. So I don't care who is in there. He is going to make it happen, because we're sitting here talking about Juju Smith-Schuster, but also Juju Smith-Schuster really wasn't a high-level wide receiver for Kansas City last year. And that's probably why he found himself a new team this offseason, is because Kansas City's like, we don't really need you anymore. So, yeah, their wide receiver depth chart is Kadarius Toney, MVS, Sky Moore, Rashid Rice, and then Travis Kelce at tight end. So not a very stacked wide receiver room at all. But again, I don't think that necessarily matters for Patrick Mahomes. If Kadarius Toney can stay healthy, I think he is going to have a tremendous season, because I believe he's a.
Yeah,
I say Toney.
Is it Toney or Tony? I'm pretty sure. I thought it was Kadarius Toney, but he probably could have been a first-round draft pick a few years ago if he didn't get in trouble at Florida. The dude's an athlete. He's a damn good wide receiver, and that could be a potential sleeper for fantasy this year. He could be really, really good.
That wide receiving room is wide open for grabs outside of Travis Kelce. The number 2 target for Patty Mahomes could be, huge. So
exactly. And if we look at Patty Mahomes last year, like we're saying, touchdowns are not going to be an issue for him, and it's because of Travis Kelce. He had, Patrick Mahomes had 41 passing touchdowns last year. I don't think those numbers dip that much. And if anything, they may dip from 41 to 38. So we're talking about, anywhere, depending on how your leagues do it, whether touchdowns are worth 4 or 6 points, you're talking about anywhere from 12 to 18 points total fantasy value, and that's all you're missing out on. So if we're missing out on three touchdowns, so be it. He's going to be 35 plus touchdowns for you, and his passing yards are going to be up there. That's why I had Patrick Mahomes as number one. But let's actually move in to our true number one. He is someone that actually ranked third overall in fantasy last year. But that is the NFC champs, the Philadelphia Eagles, and Jalen Hurts. He is our number one that we have him here. Dalton and Nathan had him as their QB1. I had him as my QB2. For me, he's going to be a solid player. I struggle again with taking either Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, and it's kind of going back to that, do you take Joe Burrow, do you take Josh Allen type of a talk. I think that their passing levels are going to be a little bit varied in terms of how much they're going to pass and the volume. Patrick Mahomes, I think game to game is going to pass so much more than Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts has that different aspect of his game where he can rush, and he's going to have, he has the potential of touching double-digit touchdowns this year in terms of rushing. So we're looking at maybe 10 touchdowns rushing and then 25 touchdowns passing. So he's a 35 touchdown plus quarterback himself. So I do like that. I think that Jalen Hurts is going to come in. He has got absolute weapons all around him as well. Arguably one of the better wide receiver rooms. We have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and then Dallas Goedert at tight end. Yeah, so
Dallas Goedert. Yeah,
that whole team. That whole
really
team
is
a fucking cheat code.
Yeah. So, I mean, DJ pretty much said it all.
Fair.
But dude, I think that's exactly why I took Jalen Hurts as my ADP as my number one. I just think with his legs, I took him over Patrick Mahomes for that reason. Not on the wide receiver room, but for fantasy purposes, you can't go wrong with a guy that runs. I mean, that's like having a running back / quarterback, and there's nothing better than your quarterback running it in for 6 points. That's just freaking Texas Roadhouse butter on their freaking buns, dude. So it's just like there's nothing better than that,
analogy.
Right? So,
but
I just think that
I also wanted to add. I didn't mean to cut you off, Dalton, but I also wanted to add here that how many offenses in the league are arguably in the conversation for best groups across the board? Wide receiver, Eagles are in that conversation for best group. O-line, they're arguably the best O-line. And then quarterback, Jalen Hurts is in that conversation. O-line. Running back room now, they just added Rashad Penny and then just traded for DeAndre Swift. They are arguably in that conversation as well as a 1-2 punch. So that offense is going to throw up numbers. They are going to be in the red zone a ton this season. I would be surprised. I thought there's only going to be maybe 2-3 games out of the 17 that they play where they score less than 30. I think they're going to be a 31 to 35 point scoring team.
Absolutely. And we can all sit here and probably agree that the Eagles probably going to win the Super Bowl.
Solid defense too.
Coming here.
Yeah, I think there's a really good chance.
It sucks to say that, but dude, that team is damn good. Dude,
I'm calling it. I think it's going to be the Eagles. I think it's going to be two birds. Half the teams are birds in the NFL, but I'm thinking it's going to be the Eagles and the Seahawks in the NFC Championship.
Oh, I thought he was going to say the Super Bowl. I was about to say that's not
NFC
possible.
Championship. I think it could be the Seahawks and the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, but I had Jalen Hurts at 1 because, like you said, geez, the weapons that man has, it is. I mean, someone's going to be open almost every play. It feels like.
Well, let's not even forget his oldest player on that wide receiving crew is probably Dallas Goedert, but I almost said Goedert. But anyways, but other than that, AJ Brown's 25. Like, that team is incredibly young for that wide receiving crew,
and they're going to be good for a while. And that defense is young too, outside of Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. But it's like Jason Kelce said on their podcast. 97% of the time their QB sneak works. That's insane. And okay, and to throw that out there, people are like, oh well, all these other coaches like, well, it's impossible to stop because someone's pushing them. No, it's impossible to stop because Jalen Hurts squats almost 680 pounds.
Well, and then you got Jason Kelsey also leading the way.
It's like Jason Kelsey's. Yeah. And Jason Kelsey sits here and says, like, for the first time in my career ever, my quarterback has bigger thighs than I do. That's not a thing, bro. That's not normal. So the fact that he has all these weapons he can throw to, and if they're within 3 yards of the red zone and it's first and goal, you best believe 3 QB sneaks are coming and Jalen Hurts is getting a touchdown because you can't stop it. Hell, he might get it
that's
from
just
3 yards
that's
out.
a way to sustain drives, and that's exactly what's going to move him on. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's going to get him to the red zone and have those opportunities for a touchdown.
Why I would draft him 1 overall in any league is because I could potentially see Jalen Hurts throwing for 220 yards every game, throwing for 2 touchdowns, rushing for 1 with 50 rushing yards almost every game. That's
he's going to he's definitely going to stack the stat sheet. And that's what I was saying. I struggled with Patrick Mahomes and him going either 1 or 2, but I think the passing volume is going to help out Patrick Mahomes a lot more. But I don't know, Jalen Hurts, you can easily make the argument for me and flip me to the other side. Just depends on the day of the week. However, though, those are our picks 1 through 5. But let's go ahead and get into some honorable mentions. Our ADP gave us the top 5, but we also continued that on. And so this ADP here is what each of us had as our next highest ranked player that didn't find themselves in this top 5 list. So Dalton, go ahead and hit us off with this.
So for my highest ranked player that I had within my top 10 was Trey Lance. I personally had him at number 4. I had him really high. And the reason I did was arguably people would say, well, he got hurt last year. You know, we don't know much about him. Well, that doesn't scare me at all. Like, yeah, he only had 1 year in college football and he may have had a 55% completion rate, but let's not forget that he was playing behind, Garoppolo very sporadically. Like, he was coming in. I mean, he's a rookie that never really got a chance to even get the opportunity. Like, this dude is still technically a rookie that's still trying to, find his wings, right? So I'm not worried about it. And also last year, don't forget week 1. Do y'all remember in Chicago when he played? It was like a freaking typhoon. Y'all remember that? I think he had like 13 completions for like 39 attempts or something. Yeah, no crap. That hurt his completion percentage. If you go watch that game, it was absolutely ridiculous. And then he got hurt week 2. So I'm not going to hold that against him. I think that, I think the quarterback battle's there, between what you read, Brock Purdy is going to take the job, Trey Lance. But I think this is Trey Lance's to lose. I think that, he's been working out with Patrick Mahomes and his trainer over the offseason. I don't know if y'all knew about that, Jeff Christensen. And they're saying that this dude's bound to make a huge leap. They're like, he doesn't even look like the same quarterback. I think this dude's going to come out and he's going to light the league on fire. And I think when you take a advantageous runner and you take someone with a very good ample, amount of arm, and you have the threats out there for targets, and Kittle and you've got Deebo Samuel and all of them, right? So I think that just leads to him with a massive upside, and that's why I'm in love with it. I think that he has every right to be a top 5 quarterback. But yes, I think his floor is incredibly low.
Yeah.
The reason I'm taking him so high is because I want our viewers to know taking a quarterback that high is a huge risk and it's a huge gamble, but it can very well likely pay off because everything there is lined up. Just like for Geno Smith, it's the same thing. It's a great defense. It's a great offense. Everything's lined up. This dude his floor could be Geno Smith.
Yeah, Trey Lance there is a bold take, but anyways, there's some stuff that I could say about that, but let's go ahead and move on to my honorable mention. And for me, that is Justin Herbert. I had him at my number 6 quarterback. But I think that again, he's gonna have a pretty solid season this year. We saw him have a very solid season last year. And then again, they are continuing to build that offense. And that is one common theme that I felt like we've said throughout all of these guys, maybe except Patrick Mahomes. They didn't really add anybody. Rashee Rice, sure. But I think here, Justin Herbert, you saw them spend a first-round pick on Quentin Johnson, so they are committed to passing. I know Keenan Allen is potentially on his way out. He's not out this year, but I think that with them investing in Quentin Johnson, they are devoted to the pass and starting to make this kind of a pass-first offense, and the only person that benefits from a pass-first offense is the quarterback himself, and that just so happens to be Justin Herbert. So expect a lot of volume out of him, a lot of touchdowns, not a lot of turnovers. That's not his style of game. So I like him at number 6. It's my honorable mention.
Yep, I think that's fair. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit when really just enough credit at all being a quarterback in the NFL. So, but moving on to mine, Dak Prescott. I mean, he doesn't have the weapon. I mean, you could say he's kind of like Jalen Hurts, but doesn't have the weapon that Jalen Hurts has. But he can run the boot really well. He can run. He'll get some. They'll throw the ball a lot. He'll get passing yards. He'll get touchdowns. He'll get rushing touchdowns. They're going to throw the ball a lot just because, all they have is Pollard and then Ronald Jones. So really look for them to throw the ball a lot this year and Dak Prescott to be very efficient in red zone and get touchdowns.
All right, so that concludes our booms. So now let's go ahead and transition into our bust for this year. And we are going to start again in descending order. So we will start at the 5 position, working our way up to the number 1. So Nathan, go ahead, get us kicked off with our number 5 bust for this NFL season.
Yep, at number 5 we have Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's hard to tell because he's only really ever played in Kyle Shanahan's offense, and we all know that can make any quarterback look good because you don't have to be a great quarterback to play in that offense. So this will be his real first test of how good of a quarterback and how good he can be in the pocket and have a pocket presence. I just don't see him, even with Devontae Adams there, I just don't see him living up to the hype and being a great fantasy quarterback. We haven't seen enough of him in a true pro style offense where you got to drop back and throw the ball and be in the pocket a lot and not having Kyle Shanahan. So I don't think he's going to adapt well. I don't trust it even with Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. So
totally agree. Totally agree. For me, I like Jimmy G, but I think he's a system quarterback. What does that look like in a Raiders offense? I don't really know. So I do think that he is going to be a bust for this year. I know that he has arguably a top wide receiver in Devontae Adams and then a really good slot, like you mentioned.
You're basically replacing
Yeah, no, I mean, you really are. But I do want to say that the true upside of him is, like we've mentioned in previous episodes, though, and that is the fact that Josh McDaniels was a part of that New England Patriots team that drafted Jimmy G and trying to potentially force Tom Brady on the way out. So I feel like not only does Jimmy G have something to prove with actually being in a true pro type of offense, not saying that Kyle Shanahan isn't a true pro type of offense, but like we mentioned too earlier, you don't need to be such a high caliber quarterback to show success in that offense and go far in this league. The Raiders, however, you need to have a different style quarterback play with you coming to that team. So Josh McDaniels knows that. He feels that Jimmy G is his guy. He drafted him coming into the league. So I feel like this is a prove it year for Josh McDaniels as well. So I'm excited to see what happens, but I say at the end of the season, Jimmy G is still bottom 5 quarterback in this league.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys said it all. But to kind of recap, I think that Jimmy Garoppolo, coming from San Fran, to Las Vegas, I think that it's like going from a Porsche to a Prius. I think he had everything you could ask for in San Fran, and now being in Vegas, at least he's got the brothel going for him, right? I think that's structured into his contract. So I mean, other than that, I'm not too hyped up on Jimmy G. I think that there's just far less talent there now with Darren Waller gone too. On top of that, I think that his ceiling, the highest his ceiling was in San Fran, and I think now it's we'll see. But like you said, DJ, being reunited with his old coach, I think maybe there is some spark, but we'll see. Now, for our number 4 ADP bust that we have is Baker Mayfield with the Buccaneers. Now, with Baker Mayfield, I'm not high on this because he just hasn't shown to be a proven quarterback and someone that was the number 1 overall quarterback. The hype just hasn't been there in his entire, tenure in the NFL. I think he's like 30-31. I think he has like a near 500 record. And so, Bruce Arians actually came out and said, you know what? I like it because he's better than any draft prospect, quarterback draft prospect in this league, in this year's draft. That's what Bruce Arians believes. And we just talked about how we believe Bruce Arians is one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the league. I mean, I thought, what a hot take for Bruce Arians. Like, do we truly think that he's better than, the draft prospects that are out there today?
Yes. And because when he was at Cleveland, he turned the organization around. You can't sit here and say that he didn't. He was a good quarterback in Cleveland. He made them a winning organization.
My question to
and then
that,
Cleveland
though,
did him
Nathan,
wrong.
I think how bad the recency of how whenever he entered that organization is the recency of how bad the Cleveland Browns were, and then how maybe mediocre he was, made his game seem even more that elevated. Do you know what I mean? So they were so used to bad quarterback play, they will take mediocre quarterback play and be happy with it.
But yeah, I get where you're coming from, but you got to remember, what was it, second year starting or his third year starting? He almost was a game away from the AFC Championship game. He almost beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. So I'm with Dalton. Here lately, though, he has been on the downfall because I really think that he thought that he would be in Cleveland for a very long time, and they kind of did him dirty with because I mean, we talked about this before on the phone. They brought in a quarterback who changed the organization and kind of made him a winning organization, and the Browns did what the Browns did. We're going to move on from you. Mm-hmm. I think that's really messed with probably his confidence and where he is mentally. If anybody can fix that, maybe Bruce Arians can. So I don't know, but the way he's played the past couple of years, it's kind of hard, like you said, to put him a top 20 quarterback in the NFL. But we'll see what Bruce Arians does with him.
Look, and I think being with what he's done with the Browns, I don't know if I would exactly say he's turned that franchise around, but he's definitely been a 500 quarterback for them, a 500 level play quarterback. And I think he's going to be that for the Buccaneers. I think he's going to lose some, he's going to win some. And I think a lot of that's going to come down to his type of play. And I just don't think he's going to meet expectations for the Buccaneers. I don't necessarily agree with Bruce Arians. I thought that was bold.
He's got good weapons though.
He does, but he had that at the Browns. He had really good weapons.
But he didn't have a Mike Evans though.
He had Amari Cooper.
Yeah, but you can't compare.
I think that the overall wide receiver room is an upgrade. Whether Amari Cooper, Amari Cooper versus Mike Evans, whatever y'all want to do, but I think that the overall wide receiver room in Tampa Bay is definitely an upgrade. But the reason that I have him rated lower is the fact that it's to what y'all said earlier with his confidence. I think that he came in, and like I was saying, I don't want that to necessarily be taken out of proportion because he came into a Browns organization that was very bad, that is used to bad quarterback play, and as a rookie, he was mediocre. Granted, the next year he was pretty mediocre as well, but we saw him improve in his game. So the improvements are there. He's doing his not natural progression, because it is hard to show improvements within the NFL. So he showed improvements throughout the NFL from year to year. And then they just said, oh, hey, Deshaun Watson's kind of available. Let's take him. And I think that is what I am worried about with Baker Mayfield coming in, is his confidence. Now, he is in a very strong wide receiver room that is going to build that confidence. Now, Bruce Arians is no longer the head coach, offensive coordinator, or anything for Tampa Bay. He is an advisor, so he steps in. He probably helps out with the offensive side of the ball. So they wanted to keep him in at that position, but he did decide to retire after a season or so ago. So he is just an advisor for them. So I don't want us to kind of think that, he's making all of the shots for Baker Mayfield and his future. But I think, again, my biggest worry is his confidence coming into this season for sure. So, but anyways, moving on to pick number, or our third ADP here for a bust, and that is Tennessee Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill. So we saw Tannehill last year finish as the 27th quarterback in all of fantasy. They substituted him for Malik Willis, who, if we remember, Mike Vrabel was not happy about drafting, but I think that that's probably what speaks even more into the level of play that Ryan Tannehill showed this past year. And they said, Mike Vrabel was like, absolutely. Okay. I mean, we got to try something else out. Like we were a playoff contending team, and now where are we going right now? So they threw in Malik Willis in there. I think Ryan Tannehill had a little bit of an injury, but then he was able to return, and then they still rocked with Malik Willis. So he didn't play all 17 games for them. Definitely not in the fantasy season. Didn't play. I think he only played 12 to 14 games for Tennessee last year. So definitely not the full season. But he is kind of entering a contract year for Tennessee. He currently has 2 years left on his contract, but there have been talks about potentially releasing Ryan Tannehill after last season. But we've seen him stay through the offseason, through the draft, and then it looks like he's most likely coming back to be the starter of the Titans again this year, even after drafting Will Levis. But I think with them taking a quarterback in the draft in the top, they took Malik Willis 2 drafts ago in the 3rd round, Will Levis last draft in the 2nd round. So I think they're committed to making some sort of change, and I think that change is going to be likely after this season. So he's having to treat this as a contract year, which some people can say, well, then we probably expect to see a lot more production out of him. But that Tennessee Titans team runs through Derrick Henry. I mean, again, looking at the weapons that the Tennessee Titans have outside of Treylon Burks, who is there? There's nobody. That team is not built to pass. Ryan Tannehill is not going to be a top 5 quarterback. Last year, he was a bottom 5 quarterback, and I expect him to do worse this year than he did last year, matter of fact.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I think Ryan Tannehill, from a fantasy perspective, I think there's not much value there. You're right. I think he's a game manager at best. I think that he would possibly work best in a 49ers type game plan, right? So I think with the Titans losing Derrick Henry and everything being in there, I think Derrick Henry's still there, but we all know that there's talk that they're like, how much longer is Derrick Henry going to be there? I think the Titans are now starting to freak out that if they lose someone like Derrick Henry, who is now going to be their guy? And what's going to be their identity? And it's not Ryan Tannehill. And I don't think that you're going to find another running back that's going to outproduce or produce even near the same as Derrick Henry, So I think that right now drafting Will Levis was not a bad idea. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think if Will Levis comes in and plays 1 year behind Ryan Tannehill, I think Will Levis has the potential to be a franchise guy. I'm not as high on him, but I think it was an absolute steal where they got him late in the draft in the 2nd round. So, but yeah, I'm totally bearish on Ryan Tannehill. I'm not super excited in what there is to offer, like you said, with only throwing to Treylon Burks and not much else there. So,
yeah, I'm agree with both of y'all. There's not much I can say now because when he was good and did they make the AFC Championship game
last year?
They did, didn't they? Lost to the Chiefs. Right?
Yeah, 2 seasons
not
ago.
Last year. No, not last year. Yeah. So, but Tannehill had A.J. Brown to throw to. You know what I mean? A.J. Brown was there with Derrick Henry. So I fully expect Will Levis to probably start by week 8. I don't think I'm with both y'all.
You think he's out quick? You think that's pretty quick? I think. You think he's out by week 8?
Yeah. I'm guessing DJ probably thinks the same. If he's going to do worse than last year, he wouldn't do very good last year. And if he's projected to do worse this year, when he came back from the injury, why did you stick with
Malik Willis?
What's his name? Malik Willis. Why did you stick with him? So I fully expect Will Levis to be starting at some point this year. I agree. You know, if they get rid of Derrick Henry, what's your offense at that point? You only have Traylon Burks, so expect the Titans to not have a great year this year, just because that whole team's going to run through Derrick Henry. Tannehill's not going to be a good quarterback. I think this is his last year with the Titans. Don't even bother drafting him. But
Dude, I feel like if they lose Derrick Henry, they lose the entire offense.
you might as well you might as well just give up on the year at that point.
I mean, we talk about all these teams that have X, Y, Z, all these players, but honestly, Derrick Henry is X, Y, Z. You take him out, you don't have a game plan. So I think that's why they're really, really panicking. So
yeah, and it sucks for Traylon Burks because he's a great wide receiver. But moving on from the Tannehill thing because he's garbage. At number 2, ADP, Mac Jones. Mac Jones showed potential his rookie year. Since then, that man has been garbage. And Dalton, please don't take this the wrong way. But for me, it's hard to trust a quarterback coming out of Alabama. When you think, and Dalton, you can agree with me on this. When you think of Alabama players in the NFL, you think of great running backs and great DBs.
yeah, no, it's true.
That's what you think of when you think of great Alabama football players in the NFL. You don't think of quarterbacks. All the great quarterbacks that they've had in the past haven't really done much in the NFL. But people can say, what about Jalen Hurts? I don't count that because his last year was at Oklahoma. But Mac Jones is garbage. If he doesn't do anything this year, I think the Patriots move on from him because he was terrible last year. Wasn't there a thing that came out saying that he got his feelings hurt or something because the coaches yelled at him?
I don't know about
coaches
that.
aren't
I don't
allowed
know
to
the
yell at
extent of
him.
that story, but I did see something where it did seem like he was a little bit butthurt about the fact that he was being coached.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, coming from Alabama with Nick Saban, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you got to think about it. Everyone said that offense that Mac Jones had at Alabama was arguably the best offense that Alabama's ever had. Look at the team that he had. That team was
But also looking at Nick
stacked.
Saban,
But
looking at Nick Saban, Dalton, to your
Here
point,
in the NFL,
you've never
He's a
seen Nick
defensive
Saban smile at a player. You've never seen that.
Well,
But then with
regardless.
Mac Jones, you saw him cutting it up with him on the sideline all the time. So how much did he actually give his typical chewing? I don't know. It's all speculation. But you've never seen Nick Saban just chopping it up with a player in the middle of a game on the sideline unless it was Mac Jones.
Right. Well, I think most people realize too that I think Nick Saban is a very personable guy. I don't think he just goes out there and just yells. I mean, he actually like 2 or 3 years ago came out and said, my kids notice me on TV, and then, it just, why is, grandpa so upset? I think he mentioned something like that. Right. So he's like, man, I got to tone it down. And we've seen that the last couple of years. But I think with Mac Jones, I think, yes, he did kind of, be very, good with him. He smiled with them. He seemed more laid back with them. But I think that's because Nick Saban understands his quarterback. And I think that's the most important piece on the field. But yes, anyways, I think I'm sure he got his fair share of butt chewing by Nick Saban. But
you're
yeah.
in the NFL. You can't sit here and complain about a coach yelling at you. If you can't handle that, you probably shouldn't be in the NFL. And guys, if that story's true, then don't even worry about picking up Mac Jones in anything because that dude's just being a big old baby. I mean, you're getting paid millions and millions of dollars to be a quarterback for the New England Patriots. If you can't handle getting yelled at, quit football, you pussy. Go play golf.
Yeah, so
he's ass.
I mean,
he's
also,
trash.
before we move on, I did want to look at his stats from last year. He was sub 3,000 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, finished the season as the 23rd overall fantasy wide or quarterback. So not a solid season at all. So I know that's why there was a lot of heat around him, but they did add Juju Smith-Schuster. Again, I don't think he's a top elite wide receiver in the league. So I don't know how much they really added with him. They also have Devontae Parker, Tyquan Thornton, and then Hunter Henry. So not a ton of weapons, but I mean, definitely more than what he had last year because N'Keal Harry was an absolute bust first round pick for them. So I don't know. Still don't like him though. I still wouldn't take him at all at quarterback. So maybe a backup to my backup.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. I think with Mac Jones, it is a little upsetting for me to see someone coming out of Alabama, being, not as productive as, he's, people expected him to be. I think he's incredibly smart. I think he is one of the smartest quarterbacks still in the league. But, then again, the only thing I'll vouch for him is the team that's around him. I just don't think there's a whole lot of playmakers. I think that they are still very well into a rebuilding phase. But still, I'm still very highly disappointed with the productivity there. I wished I could see a little more. But anyways, Nathan, to your point, let's talk about what about for Alabama? What about like Bart Starr? Okay, what about Joe Namath?
This is a different era.
Other than those guys, I'm talking about later. Yeah, different.
Yeah,
but
you still have good quarterbacks. All right, our era, but you still got good quarterbacks.
Probably threw like 15 times a game.
Now. Anyways, guys, for our number one bust on our ADP, and I'm sure this doesn't surprise anyone. Sam Howell. How well is Howell? So that's one thing that we're all saying. With that team, we're looking at Ron Rivera. Come on now. You got Carson Wentz that come through. You had all these veterans that are coming through. Now you got Sam Howell. So it's a rookie. You got
really his second year. Yeah, last year was his first year. He played one game last year. So kind of his rookie season this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have him. I think we all consensus was a bust for him. But at the same time, guys, he has a huge fan base, actually, guys. He has a lot of people that are saying that this dude is going to be top talent in the NFL. He was super productive at, North Carolina. His game tape was nice, dude. If you go back and look at it, it's like, holy crap, this dude's going to light it up. But he just wasn't really highly sought after in the NFL. And so I think that he has the capability to. I think his ceiling is fairly high, but I think that his inexperience, we could also say the same thing, right, about, Jordan Love or, and we'll get into that later, but, about, Trey Lance and some other quarterbacks too. But I just don't think that explosiveness is there with Sam Howell. The team, I think that Ron Rivera, I have some question marks there too with him there being in Washington. I think he did a great job with Cam Newton and with the Panthers, but I just don't. I don't see this really working out for Sam Howell here in Washington.
Yeah, well, we have him as a bust because we haven't seen him play enough.
Right.
That's the sole reason he's a bust. I've seen him play a lot at North Carolina. He's a pro-style quarterback. He is. He's a good quarterback. He's a great quarterback. We just haven't seen him play enough in the NFL. So he's a bust because like I said, we haven't seen him play enough. This is going to be his test year. We're going to see how good he is. It's just like it is for Desmond Ridder.
Right. How well is Howell, right?
Yeah.
How well? We don't know how well he is, right?
We're going to see what and he doesn't need to be fantastic. He needs to be consistent because like DJ said, it's pretty much his rookie year. He just needs to show consistency. So he's a bust just because we haven't seen him play enough, and this is his test year. So we'll see what he's capable of this year, and we'll see what he can.
One thing that I wanted to add to this is like a little bit of upside. So I know that he is our bust, and I don't think that he's going to have a good year, but there are two things that I am excited about Sam Howell, and that one is his current wide receiver group with McLaurin, Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas. Dotson and McLaurin are very good young wide receivers, and they are absolute playmakers. Now, with that, they just got Kansas City's old offensive coordinator, who we thought all was going to take a head coaching position. He didn't. He went with an offensive coordinator position to prove himself, because I think that whenever he was going to interviews, people were people were questioning whether or not he could even interview well or not, because it's like, why is this guy not a head coach? But I think that at the end of the day, it was what separates yourself if you don't have Patrick Mahomes. And he said, you know what? Going to Washington. I'll be the offensive coordinator there, and I'll show you what I got. So that guy, the offensive coordinator, the guy who I'm talking about is Eric Bieniemy. So Eric Bieniemy, he has been up there in the talks of the next head coach. He may be a one and done offensive coordinator, but he has proven all types of success in Kansas City. Again, I know we're talking about Patrick Mahomes, but he is a good offensive coordinator. He creates good schemes. So Sam Howell is going to benefit from that. However, he is a rookie quarterback. We even said it with Baker Mayfield. Even Baker Mayfield, his rookie season, and I think that him and Baker probably have really similar qualities. Baker was a very mediocre quarterback during his rookie season in Cleveland. So I think that that's kind of Sam Howell's ceiling. That's the most that we'll expect out of him. I don't think he finishes as a top 5, top 10 quarterback at all. So his mediocreness is going to be what, gets him. The greatest is mediocre. So at least this year.
I don't know.
No,
I think
for
we
sure.
can all feel pretty sleepy.
There's a lot of upside.
I think just like you said, with everything going on and behind the scenes there in Washington, and what he's showing that he's able to do, with North Carolina, dude, I think it's sleepy for sure. But I think again with his inexperience and things, I think there's a lot of, I think I'm leaning more bust. But
absolutely,
100%. Give him some time.
So, anyways, those are our top 5 busts, with Sam Howell being our number 1 bust for this year. And again, just because it being a little earlier in his career. So, just as we did in the previous segment, we had honorable mentions. This one we're calling dishonorable mentions because they're in the lower part of the bust. So, Nathan, go ahead, kick us off. Who's your dishonorable mention?
The one and only Russell Wilson. He is. He was supposed to go to Denver and go on a Super Bowl run. And he had the weapons to do it, man. He had the weapons to do it. He
still has them.
Well. Still has them. But what's he going to do with them? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sean Payton's coming in this year. It doesn't matter. I don't think Russell Wilson, he wasn't ready for Denver. I mean, he has to win the team over because last year the team wasn't really behind him. They were like, dude, let's ride. The team was like, fuck your ride, dude. Okay, you suck. Okay, you can shut up now. And so it's a lot of stuff that Russell Wilson's got to do. He's got to win the team over, the city over, and all this. So it's a lot that he's got to do. Is he capable of it? Sure, but we'll see. He has the same weapons as he did last year. So you know what I mean. We'll see what he does. But I'm not too. All the good, great quarterbacks in front of him right now. I just wouldn't go Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean the guy has been in 9 Pro Bowls. I don't think that the future Hall of Fame talks are completely out. I think that's a very hot topic for me to say, but I think that it's not completely out. I think that he can figure things out with Denver. I don't think this is something that's just a flame that's diminishing. I think that it's rekindling. And I think that he can get in there. He has the weapons. He can run. And I think he just needs to find the right coach. We've seen what happens with Trevor Lawrence when he had that coaching change. And I think that, bringing in a fresh new perspective and a new playbook, hopefully they'll play to Russell Wilson's, strengths, but we'll see. But Nathan, I do agree that, yeah, potential bust. Yeah. But I would like to see a rekindle there. For me, I chose Jordan Love with the Green Bay Packers. So the reason I chose him is because for me, it's a shot in the dark. I kind of feel the exact same way about him as I do with Sam Howell. I just don't think there's a whole lot of playing experience there. I do think the running upside is there, but he only ran the most he ran the ball last season was 5 times. So he's played, I think, like a handful of games. So it's not a whole lot. But he doesn't run the ball, so he kind of sits in the pocket, and I just don't have a whole lot of faith in the wide receiving core there. I think that they are some studs. I think Christian Watson is a very good player and will be a franchise guy for them down the road. But if he does take a step forward, I just don't see it being a huge step. If anything, I can see it being more of a stutter step. Now, their identity right now is in the running game, with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And so I think that those guys are still going to be the identity of that team. I'm still, like I said, I'm skeptical with Jordan Love. I don't see it there. I don't know why. I don't feel the love, but it's not there for me, and I just can't get on board with it.
My dishonorable mention for me is Kenny Pickett. I like Kenny Pickett, but at the same time, I don't. And the only reason that I say that I don't is because of his O-line. Yes, they did just pick up Broderick Jones out of Georgia, but I don't think that that's enough. That O-line was horrendous this last season, and that was the reason they were so bad. That's why we saw Najee Harris, who was a crazy running back for Bama, come into that team and average something about 3 yards a carry. Bad, very bad, and that speaks to the O-line. They also can't pass protect. So they're making moves. I don't think that this is Kenny Pickett's year. That's why I have him as a bust. Yes, they just added Allen Robinson, giving them a wide receiver room of Deontay Johnson, Allen Robinson, and then George Pickens. And then Pat Freiermuth. And then, they've got guys, but they don't have anybody to block them. And that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. And like you said, he's got the weapons. Kenny Pickett's going to be a good quarterback, but you got to protect the good quarterback, and that's where they lack right now. So,
yeah. Look, I think he's a bust this year. I think he's a bust. I think in next year, it could be different. But I think, to DJ's case, with Najee Harris, when you have a guy that's going in there running the ball 15 plus times, nearly 20 times, and only averaging 2 to 3 yards a carry, it's either the quarterback or it's the offensive line. And I don't think anyone believes it's Najee Harris, right? So I think we've seen the type of running back he is and what he's capable of doing. And I think they got some issues that they need to take care of. And
for sure. Figure out on that. So anyways, that concludes our booms, our busts, our honorable mentions, and our dishonorable mentions. So if y'all have made it to this part of the episode, guys, thank y'all so much. Let us know in the comments what you think of either our booms or our busts or the honorable, dishonorable mentions, whatever y'all think. We would love to know y'all's takes and add to this conversation. We will always comment back and let y'all know. So leading into the next part of this episode, we are going into bench banter. And if y'all were listening to the last episode, Dalton, can you remind me who won last episode? Was it us or was it Nathan? I'm forgetting. It was a week ago. It was us. Matter of fact.
Talk a lot of shit for being 1-7.
Talking a lot of shit for being in the losing column too, buddy. All right. But anyways, what bench banter is, it is just a trivia style game where Nathan is asking me and Dalton questions. Me and Dalton work as a team. We do get 2 guesses and a hint, but Nathan's questions are a little bit difficult. So Nathan, go ahead, get us kicked off. Question number 1. As ever.
All right, boys, y'all ready? Which quarterback holds the record for most interceptions thrown in a career?
I honestly want to say Brett Favre.
So that we're talking about the Babe Ruth.
What do you mean by that? Oh, okay.
Most strikeouts, but
yeah. So as someone, I feel like it has to be someone that has had a very long career, but also turned the ball over a lot. And for me, that's Brett Favre. I feel like that's the first name that comes to my mind. He is someone that turned over the ball a ton. Career.
So we're talking about career, right? Career-wise.
Yes, thank you, Dalton. Give us a hint, Nathan.
DJ, or not?
Yes, thank you, Dalton. Give us a hint, Nathan.
He did play in the NFC.
Okay. That even further proves me. All right. I'm locking in.
Let's think.
I'm locking in Brett Favre.
That's the only one that's coming to my head. I guess Matt Ryan, but I feel like that is so wrong though. Like I can't. I'm trying to.
The correct answer is
Let's go, baby.
All right, there we go. Doesn't matter. Nathan's like, go ahead, Dalton. Just lock it in. You already got it.
Dalton takes like 10 minutes to answer the damn question. Question number 2. Which round was Drew Brees selected
Definitely the Falcons.
And by what team?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was by the Chargers.
Or wait, no. Yeah. It was.
Ooh, DJ.
No, it wasn't the Falcons. You're right. Because he was traded.
Pretty sure it was by the Chargers. And I want to say it was round 3.
Well,
Dalton's going round 3 Chargers. What are you going with?
So what happens if we go 1-1?
Because I made it a 2-parter. Don't question me. It doesn't matter.
Well, DJ, we already got the team.
Right. Okay, Nathan, give us a hint on the round.
Now we got to figure out the round.
can't give a hit on the round.
Who was
Is
who
it
was the
before or after
player?
3?
It's between round. It's between round 1 and
Man.
7.
What? Think of another player that was in that round, drafted in that same round. In this year's draft.
I can't think back that far. No, lock
All
it in,
right.
DJ. What are you going with?
I'm going fourth round.
Well, we got part 1 right.
The correct answer is Chargers 2nd round.
Oh
Ooh,
man, I was in
crap,
between
dude.
2nd and 4th. All right, well, but what's okay? But how we were 1-1?
Okay, this
Hold on,
question.
so we
have,
get
like-
doesn't
let's
matter.
cancel that. It's nullified.
It's nullified.
All right.
This one's for the win, boys. Question number 3. What was the final team that Vince Lombardi coached for?
The final team. Hold on.
And that was in an era where there were not a lot of teams.
Your hint, it is an NFC team.
Man, all these like vintage questions, I always like my brain always goes to either Green Bay or Chicago Bears. Would Vince Lombardi have done that to Wisconsin? Is it just went over to the street to Chicago? I
If
mean,
they
I
paid
feel like
enough
that's what
money,
I'm doing.
Probably.
Dalton, I'm going to lock in Chicago.
Vince Lombardi, dude. Oh. I feel like it's pretty
I don't
historic
think he
to
would.
say
I
like
don't
the
think he
Giants
would
or
end up-
something.
For me, it's just like the Colts. They've been like the dang Baltimore Colts or whatever, or oof, I don't know.
But would it be
Yeah,
a different
dude,
team
he
like that?
was-
Would they have a different name back
Oof.
then, you think, too?
He was first couple Super Bowls and he's out.
Come on, Dalton.
I'm saying Bears.
I'm going to say, shit, the Eagles there, would they?
Yeah,
Philadelphia?
I was about to
I
say
think
they
the
have-
Eagles were I think the Eagles were a team then.
Nathan's saying
Well,
I
the way
think
we're
so
saying that,
no.
I don't think I think that it might have been. Well, we got the
Not
second hit, boys.
All right, come on, Dalton.
All right, I'm gonna go with Vince Lombardi. Dude, I'm gonna stay up there. I'm gonna stay up there with DJ. I'm gonna go with Detroit. I'm gonna say Lions.
For the win, are y'all ready?
Yeah.
The correct answer is Washington Redskins.
You're kidding me. Okay, I don't feel like this is a loss to us because we got
You lost.
we got two out
Of course
of
You're
4.
not gonna feel like it was a loss.
We got 2 out of 4.
I threw the question was which round was Drew Brees selected in.
That's
I added what team part,
Well, you added it.
but you had to get the whole question right. So you didn't get the whole question right, so therefore it's wrong. I don't hand out participation trophies,
well,
boys.
you also don't get
You
to
earned
ask
this
full
shit
questions,
around
but
here.
you freaking did. And we got 2 out of the 4. You better
No,
you
I
better
asked
come up with a
3
tiebreaker
questions.
question right now.
Legitimately,
Maybe
it's
about your
it's a tie
personal
ball game.
life.
Or Ty goes
Yeah.
the runner.
You want to do a
We're-
tiebreaker right now?
Yeah, we're the
Let's
runner.
do a tiebreaker.
Okay,
me and
let me think of a
Dalton.
question.
Me and
Let's do
Dalton ask
tiebreaker
you a
right now. Let me
question.
think of a question. Okay, hit me.
After a quick intermission, me and Dalton have come up with our question for you.
All right, Nathan. All right, here's the tiebreaker, fellas. Nathan, what is the most expensive stadium ever built?
Ever built?
You know what? We can make it more interesting and say what is the least expensive
go
stadium
most.
ever built?
Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I don't even know that, but most.
Is that what you want
Built
your
or
hint to be?
renovated?
Most expensive NFL stadium.
No.
Is that what you want your
Is it an
hint to be?
AFC team? Actually, I want to hit. Do the teams share a stadium? Is it a shared stadium?
No, that gives away too much.
Dawson, give him a hint so he quits asking.
That's too big of a hint.
AFC, NFC.
Give me a hint.
Okay. NFC.
There ain't no fucking way.
We'll even take the team.
It had to be the right. It had, but I'm thinking newest stadiums. So you got the Raiders, but that's AFC. It would have to be the SoFi.
Are you sure?
NFC.
Lock it in, Nathan.
I know it's not Dallas. It's got to be SoFi.
You locking it in.
I'm locking in SoFi.
All right.
You're right. It is SoFi Stadium.
It had to be SoFi.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, dude. I didn't want y'all to see that hissy fit. I
We saw
blocked my
everything.
camera, so hopefully y'all didn't see it.
All right. Anyways, Nathan beat us this week on some controversial. I don't know if we count it, like Des caught it type stuff over here, but whatever. It is what it is. Thank y'all so much for listening to this episode. That concludes it with our booms and busts for our quarterbacks, and then a kind of sketchy bench banter there. But as always, thank y'all so much for the listen. Again, y'all can always access all of our information through our website, which is boysonthebench.com. Through that, you can see our episode either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, also on YouTube.